Yes, you fire our best coach. What the hell's called?
Hang on a second.
2 years of success and you fire him?
The Fire have shown they're well equipped to prevent the Red Bulls from clinching what would be the second major trophy in franchise history. A victory means it is virtually in their hands. And we're underway at Bridgeview, Illinois.
Wir müssen körperlich auf dem Platz and get fucking stuck in mit Druck. Diese Aktion, manchmal mit Van Dijk. Ja, komm Jungs. Zu viel Respekt für die Gegner. Zu viel Respekt für die Gegner.
Sometimes you can be too honest. But you got to say, when you go to your boss and come out with a statement like that, you're basically putting your head on a platter.
I have a lot to prove to our fan base that I'm the right guy to follow such a hero like Marcelo Bielsa.
After Marcelo Bielsa was fired from Leeds United in the Premier League, an American coach seems destined to take his place. Jesse Marsch looks set to be the second American ever to coach a Premier League team after Bob Bradley failed to last more than a few months with Swansea in 2016.
The game can be cruel, and when you go through a bad period as a team, it just seems like everything that can go wrong goes wrong, and that's a rut we're in right now.
Jesse Marsch played in MLS for 14 years, winning the League Cup and US Open Cup trophy multiple times. After spending time as an assistant to the aforementioned Bob Bradley, he became the inaugural coach of the Montreal Impact, led the New York Red Bulls to multiple Supporter Shield runs, won the double twice with RB Salzburg, and was most recently at the helm of RB Leipzig before mutually agreeing to part ways, and he now looks poised to replace the legendary Argentinian coach Marcelo Bielsa. Even with some of the most successful seasons ever for Red Bull New York and RB Salzburg, and a 52% win percentage while coaching varying levels of club teams, there will be many questions asked of this Premier League appointment. The weight of Marsch's inconsistent results with one of the most talented clubs in the German Bundesliga still hangs recently on fans' hearts, and Marsch will receive a mixed reception from a growingly rabid fan base that expects to stay up this season in the Premier League. Marsch may not have Bielsa's legendary status, but he will share an aura of intensity and a strong personality that genuinely loves football.
They have to feel us, guys. They have to know we're fucking here to compete. Not just that we're stylistically gonna try to play the same way, but we came to fucking play, right? That is what's most important. We're gonna talk a little bit about tactics, but we gotta step on that field. And when we say Selbstvertrauen, that means will also. Will füreinander und jetzt ist es ich gegen ihn oder euch oder egal. It's us against them.
Jesse found his feet as the head coach of the New York Red Bulls, taking over at a tumultuous time in their history. A club legend, Mike Petke, had taken a somewhat incomplete roster and done a relatively good enough job by all accounts from the fan base, but was sacked in favor of hiring Jesse Marsch. This did not go down well with the fans, as the club was inundated with comments surrounding the treatment of Mike Petke, and here's where we get a first sense of the commitment that Jesse exudes to fans and players. To appease fan concern, the organization held a town hall where fans were able to come in person and express their issues face to face with the front office. Ali Curtis and sporting director Marc de Grandpré was supposed to take the brunt of the fan concern, but the brand new coach Jesse Marsch came as well and took every single concern to heart from fans.
That doesn't mean we have all the answers, and I'm not trying to say anything about anybody in the past, okay? But I feel strongly that we are going to be able to implement a direction that's going to take this club to a new plateau. And ultimately, what's going to matter is, what are the results? What are the results, okay? If we lose, you're going to hate me. You're going to hate me. If we win, maybe you'll learn to put up with me, okay? But in the end, let's make sure that we give Luis and this team a chance to go out on the field, succeed, and compete. Because that's what this is. It's about these guys and the opportunity to show what they have and show the character of what this club is.
Even though his appointment and succession of Mike Petke was at the center of fans' disappointment with the club, Jesse absorbed every doubt and piece of backlash with his sincerity, understanding, and commitment. When people spoke, Jesse listened. He gave Red Bull fans hope, and that season he gave them their first piece of hardware.
And that's all! This season that began with hatred and vitriol in a town hall meeting ends with ecstasy and the Supporter Shield in Chicago. The Red Bulls win MLS regular season championship.
Here we truly get to see the development of his tactics and mindset. When Jesse Marsch and his teams are at their best, it's a beautiful combination of a counter-pressing system mixed with a total culture of commitment and camaraderie from his team. This mostly pays off for his New York Red Bull teams as they quickly become known as one of the best teams in the league, and Red Bull Arena becomes a fortress. This can also be his greatest weakness, as he is known to try and implement one style and one idea that may not perfectly translate to a fluid game, and that sometimes means that his stylistic rigidity creates issues when his teams are pressed to find new ideas, which may sound similar for fans of the US men's national team following the national team coach Greg Berhalter. Sometimes this can create frustrating situations for players who want to play more with the ball and have additional freedom on the pitch. Such was the crux of his disappointing time at RB Leipzig. All coaches come with their positives and negatives, and objectively Jesse Marsch is one of the best available coaches in the world just based on trophies and games won. He has Champions League pedigree and has impressed every coach he's coached with, from Ralf Rangnick to Julian Nagelsmann. Marsch became the assistant in RB Leipzig to Ralf Rangnick for the 2018 season, signing a 2-year contract in July of 2018. During Marsch's tenure as an assistant for Leipzig, he was tasked with organizing the team's training sessions and preparing them for opponents. Marsch played a critical piece helping the team to the group stage of the UEFA Europa League, where the team finished third in their group but bowed out of the competition. He further helped Rangnick lead the team to third place in the team's Bundesliga campaign and to the final of the DFB Pokal before falling to Bayern Munich in the final. Marsch ultimately left the team after one season to replace Marco Rose as coach of Leipzig's sister club Red Bull Salzburg, and in his first season in charge, he led Salzburg to winning the double. The team won the Austrian Bundesliga by winning 69% of their games, 12 points ahead of second place Rapid Wien. The team also won the Austria Cup 5-0 against Austria Lustenau. During the next season, Marsch led Salzburg to their third successive cup win, Marsch's second as a coach, in a 3-0 victory over LASK. Salzburg also won the Bundesliga, making it 2 doubles in a row for Jesse's RB Salzburg. From Salzburg, succeeding Julian Nagelsmann at RB Leipzig would always be a tougher task than many expected, and Jesse Marsch found it harder and harder to avoid criticisms of his uncompromising tactics when results were not up to standard for the now proud Bundesliga club. In December of 2021, after recording a record of 7 wins, 4 draws, and 6 losses, the club and Jesse mutually agreed to part ways. After a decade of success but a recent stumble, Jesse Marsch looks poised to take on the position of head coach at Leeds in the Premier League. The hiring decision will come with valid criticisms that Marsch's pedigree is lesser than Marcelo Bielsa's, and he is not a defensive coach usually hired to help teams reach safety. This is more of a high-risk, high-reward hire for Leeds, whereas many teams in the same position would go a different direction. Let's take a deeper look at Jesse's system from Jesse himself.
I like to think of it more as internal belief. And so I think there's 2 ways that you create that. And so one are the tactical details, your style of play, the way you think about football, how you like to arrange your team. When I think about the way that we play football, a lot of people say that we are a pressing team, we're a vertical team, we're an intense team, we're a gegenpressing philosophy. I like to think of it as we are a pressing team, and I think we are very much committed to that. But we don't press to gain possession. We press to score goals. And I think that's a fundamental, important detail within our philosophy and within our strategy, is it's not pressing to gain possession. It's always with the idea that we're looking to go to goal as quickly as we can. So that'll be important. Even as we go through things, I'll describe that. I learned a lot from Ralf Rangnick and from the Germans, the way they think about football, that vocabulary and details of explaining how we play about football are incredibly important. I'll talk more about how elaborate that is, but how important the efficiency is as we go through things. But the vocabulary, the vast vocabulary I learned from the Germans was really, really important to my development. And then it winds up, this phrase I love, and it's an American inventor that came up with this phrase, but the success is in the sum of the details. And so the details are important, going through the details, ironing out the details, communicating the details. And the more that there's a common understanding as to what that is, I think the easier it is for the players to execute. Then the next part is the mentality. And, they almost make fun of me here in Austria because I use this word so much. But once you get through the football, the mentality becomes so important. So I'll go through what I can, all in, the togetherness of a team. I really try to create ownership at a really high level from within the team. Youth development is a major part of what we do here. Then growth of the entire team and the individual. I use this word empty the tank to talk about how to commit yourself at the highest level every day. And then, like I talked about before, difficulty. So you see our distance, okay, of 124 meters. That's our entire distance for our team in one game without the goalkeeper. Then here we look a lot at our sprinting distances. Okay, so this is very high speed sprints, and these are sprints in general. So that's above 20 kilometers per hour over at least a 5 meter distance. So total here, what you have is 667 sprints for 10 players in the game. So the sprints are something that we always look at. But then what you can also look at here are this number 3,700 and this number 7,400. This is the 3,000 number is our sprints with the ball when we're in possession, and the 7,000 are our sprints when we don't have the ball. And as you see, it's double, roughly double. And that winds up being really important. We talk so much about our sprinting, but it has to be that we're intense, more intense against the ball, that we sprint against the ball, that whenever we're attacking, that we're always thinking about how hard, how fast, how intense can we be against the ball. Everything I'll take you through here is when we're in our 4-2-2-2 formation. Now, for me, the formations aren't so important, but I tried to keep some continuity here so that everybody can at least understand a little bit of how it fits positionally with what we're doing. But we play, since in my time here, I've played 11 different formations. So the formations aren't nearly as important as now the fundamental habits that we have within the formation. So what we have here, and I made this a little longer because this was in our cup final right after we played right after the first Corona lockdown. And what you'll see is there's a little bit of time here where we're recovering and getting back. And that's what's important is, I know it's difficult when you think about a team sprinting for 90 plus minutes, always every game, but there's a rhythm to the game. And that's what's, I think, really important to understand. And that's what we try to commit to, is there are times when we come more compact, and it's not that we're intense all the time, but certainly when we are intense and when we are ready to play at a high level, that we're always ready to then sprint. Okay, so you'll see here that the opponent is getting ready for a goal kick. He plays the ball, and you can see that the entire team now is starting to attack, closes the ball down, wins the ball, turns it quickly into a moment in front of the goal, and scores. Okay, so sprinting together, 100%, making the last step. And when you win the ball, not thinking about possession, but thinking about how quickly you can score a goal.
Now, rigidity and complex ideas don't necessarily translate effectively to teams when you don't have much time to implement those ideas. And Leeds have about a dozen games left to implement those ideas and start to get results. It's still unclear whether Jesse's time at RB Leipzig was a blip on an otherwise successful path, and we'll see if he has learned from past mistakes and tried to improve on his weaker areas. Will the Leeds community and team welcome him to help them to safety? Will his personality and style help ease fan base's concerns? The big question is, can he learn from his mistakes, implement his system simply, and become the coach needed for Leeds to reach the next level? Guys, if you're still watching, then please consider subscribing to the channel for more football essays like this. And if you want to see the full seminar from Jesse Marsch, you can follow the link in the pinned comment. I will see everyone next time on FIFAmerica.